Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Thursday, January the 18th, 2018. Good to have you all here for our second of two shows this week. Hope your week so far has been treating you well. Apologize for my voice again. You probably can tell it's very low and I'm having some issues. We're going to try to go very quickly tonight and get through what we have to get through because I already cut a couple segments because I don't know how long I'm going to hold out. So we'll do the best we can. It looks like our technical issues from Tuesday are resolved, so that's good. So let's just get right down to it. As always, let me start off by reminding you all the ways in which you can contribute to the show and have your voice heard. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and then like our fan page and follow us on there so you can have access to everything, all the fun stuff that we can, give you access to, all the interactions, all that good stuff. So, all right. As I said, bear with me with my voice. It's not the best, but we'll make do. Tonight is our usual Thursday proceedings. We got box office beat, TV highlights, the film spotlight of the week is back. We haven't done that in a couple weeks. So the usual stuff here on this Entertainment Thursday that we usually have. And then we're going to do a couple other little things. We'll discuss the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards and what the SAG Awards and Oscars may bring as a result, as we are in the thick of award season. I was going to talk about the Golden Globes last week. Did not have time with everything that was going on. So we postponed it to this week. So we'll do a little bit of that tonight as well. And that's going to be the show. So we don't have a lot. But, we got stuff to get through. Let's just put it that way. So not a lot, but enough to get through. And that's what we'll do here tonight. So for once, we're starting relatively on time, which is nice. But which probably means that my co-host is going to be extremely late because he's not used to me starting on time, but regardless, we can get through some things without him, make things go a little quicker here. So I told you what's going down tonight. As for next week, Tuesday will be a sports entertainment combo edition of the show. So all the big sports stuff we have to do. We'll talk about all the NFL games this weekend, the conference championship games. We'll do a brief preview of the Super Bowl. At least get this ball rolling on our Super Bowl preview. Any other big stuff from sports we have to cover, including college basketball, we'll cover. And then, of course, we'll do our usual entertainment stuff, box office beat, TV highlights, whatever we have time for. And all wrestling stuff we're going to save for Thursday because on Thursday, we're going to have an all-wrestling show previewing WWE's Royal Rumble pay-per-view event. We'll go over all the matches, analysis, make predictions, all that good stuff. And also answer questions or address questions and comments from our fans. So if you have a question or comment you want addressed during that wrestling show, you can submit stuff by email, Facebook, Twitter, either before the show or during the show on Thursday. So keep that in mind. So that's what's going down next week. Also, next Thursday is the deadline for the Film Award winning ballot. So if you have a winning ballot, it is due by next Thursday. And also, if you're submitting anything for the live vote of the awards, if you're making any nomination submissions, those are due next Thursday as well. Remember, the 8th annual In the Spotlight Film Awards will take place Tuesday, January 30th. So that's only a week from Tuesday. We're only going to have a few days between Thursday and Tuesday for the ballots to be counted. That's not a problem. It's always easier handling the winning ballots than there's the nomination ballots. So obviously the week after next, on Tuesday, we'll have the film awards, and then everything else that we usually do will be on Thursday of that week. So that's a little bit of insight into what's coming up and all the important deadlines and all the important information that you all need to know. So make sure you keep all that in mind. Again, I'm going to try to be very short because I want to conserve my voice. So that's the information you all need. So with all that being said, I don't know how long Mike will be taking, so we're just going to get started. And it looks like we have enough here to start with, so we can do that. So let's get right down to it. And as we always do on these Thursday shows, we'll start off with the box office and take a look back at what ended up being for really Now, granted, it was a holiday weekend. Some people are going to throw 4-day numbers at you, and some people are going to just go up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, I mean, it's cool to look at it both ways. You all know me over the years, like Columbus Day weekend, Martin Luther King weekend, President's Day weekend. I never look at them as 4 days because sometimes, I mean, yeah, you do get a good number on Monday, but it's not like 4th of July where I consider it like a big enough box office period to kind of go, okay, let's look at those numbers more and let's look at the 3 days. So, you know, that's how I look at it. But still, all in all, it ends up being a fairly decent box office weekend. And you know, it's been really interesting to see the trajectory of the last couple of weeks. Because we as we talked about, it started off, you know, we talked about Star Wars and its dominance, and a lot was said about Star Wars and how it wasn't doing as well as Force Awakens, but nobody expected it to, really. At least reasonable people didn't. But it's been interesting to see how it's everything's progressed from Star Wars to Jumanji, which has kind of had that kind of infamous, what we like to call, carryover. Sometimes you get these movies that, you know, they don't have the big first weekend, or they have a decent enough first weekend, but they hold up so well that they kind of rise to the top and hang out at the top much longer than you expect, and that's Jumanji. Because when Jumanji first came out, obviously it was below Star Wars, and it's held on while Star Wars has fallen off, which you expected it to. And Jumanji is, you know, has taken hold of the last couple of weeks, and it's expected to hold this coming week as well. So it's been interesting to see how this is all transitioned here. And Jumanji really did carry this weekend. It pulled in $28.1 million for the 3-day and $35.1 million for the 4-day, which is very good for its 4th week of box office. That's very, very good. Now, obviously, people were off from school on Monday. Some people might have been off from work. That helped. You know, sometimes, I mean, obviously, for Monday grosses, you get a nice little boost. But, you know, when you have Monday off, oftentimes you see the bigger boost on Sunday because people know they don't have to go to work next day. They might be more willing to stay out later. So, got a nice Jumanji did very well this weekend, and it's done very well, and it's carried over very well. And, you know, 2 weeks in a row at number one, very good film. It's already made $680.3 million worldwide, which is much more than I would have thought it would have made. The other big surprise, in addition to what Jumanji's done over the last couple, and it has been surprising what Jumanji has done over the last couple weeks, because nobody expected it to carry over this well as it has. The other big surprise was The Post, which expanded its theater count by 2,783, so it's up to 2,819 theaters after this past weekend. It moved up from 15th to 2nd with 23 million. Which is much more than anybody would have anticipated because of the fact it's been, you know, opening, you know, in limited release. And look, it's got Meryl Streep, it's got Tom Hanks. It did have some buzz, but I don't think anybody expected this. You know, maybe it's the climate and how it appeals to the current political climate and everything. I don't know. And definitely appeals to a lot of older audiences. Plus, Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks have their fan bases among the older audience. But again, this is much higher than anybody would have anticipated. To make 23 million at this stage as it expands was tremendous, and especially since it's not the movie that's getting all the big buzz. Really, I mean, it's getting buzz, but it's not getting as much buzz as, say, gosh, I'm blanking. Movies like Shape of Water, 3 Billboards, Lady Bird, that kind of thing. It's not getting as much buzz as those movies are. So for it to do this is kind of surprising. So very, very surprising. So you give a lot of kudos to them, and, you know, it's clear that the buzz has helped it, and maybe the cast has helped it, and that's, you know, that's what's gone on. Now, also surprising people in how it's done on The Greatest Showman, which moved up from 4th to 3rd with 16.1 million. It actually gained 17.5%. That's its 4-day number. For 3-day, it came in 4th with 12.4. But still, again, it's appealing to older audience, but it also has the younger audience too, with Zac Efron and Zendaya. And by the way, that post number I gave you was for the 4-day. For the 3-day, made 19.3, which is still good. So it's carried over well. It did not have a good first week, but it's held strong, much like Jumanji has over these last couple weeks. It's held very strong. And maybe that's a manifestation of the fact that Star Wars dominated the first few weeks. And then once people had seen Star Wars, like, all right, let's go see some of these other movies that we maybe didn't see because we saw Star Wars or, whatever. So they started getting around to Jumanji and they started getting around to The Greatest Showman. And that's maybe what you're seeing here. Now that the holidays are over, maybe all the Star Wars fanfare has worn off. So, and that happens. We've seen that with Frozen, where it kind of, held on strong beyond its first week. It didn't have a great opening week, but it kind of held strong. We've seen that with Sherlock Holmes and Alvin and the Chipmunks. We've seen that where, maybe they don't take number one, or maybe they don't have that big, gigantic opener, but they kind of hold serve and they kind of just stay at the top and just do very well in the weeks that follow. So good for The Greatest Showman. The Commuter finished third for the 3-day period, but fourth for the 4-day. For the 3-day, it made 13.7. For the 4-day, the Liam Neeson thriller made $15.7 million. Not bad. I think I'll never be against them putting Liam Neeson in an action movie. Especially one in January. We also saw what Taken did years ago in January. But here's the thing. Okay. You're not going to get the numbers you were getting a few years ago, Liam Neeson in an action movie. You're just not. The novelty is kind of worn off. It will still draw. It will still do okay, especially with older audiences. You'll draw a good number, maybe 15, 20, 25 million, but you won't get no $40, $50 million opening. And I don't think they were expecting that here. 15.7 with all the competition, the way things are going, was not that bad for the 4-day. And 13.7 for the 3 wasn't bad either. It's not great. It's not bad. Can live with it. As I mentioned The Greatest Showman in fourth for the 3-day, third for the 4. Last week's big new release opening, Insidious, dropped from second to fifth with 12.4 million, a 58% drop off, but for horror movies, not out of the realm. It dropped even further for the 4-day. It dropped to 14.3 in seventh, but again, that's not surprising given it's a horror movie in its second weekend. For the 3-day, coming in sixth, dropping from third, was Star Wars with 11.8 million, a 50% drop off. For the 4-day, it came in sixth, dropping from third, 14.6. It's been out for 5 weeks. What do you expect? I know people are like, well, that's a pretty significant drop. Force Awakens didn't do that. With Jumanji doing what it's doing, with the Post doing what it's doing, there's more competition this time around. So to me, it's not the Force Awakens, folks. I mean, even I don't care if the movie's better or worse than the Force Awakens. It was never going to do what the Force Awakens did. Just the way it is. So, then you had 2 new releases that came in next. Paddington 2 in seventh for the 3-day of 11 million. Came in fifth for the 4-day with 15 million. So that shows you that the day off from school gave some kids more time to go see that. Little kids and families get more time to go see that. Got a nice big jump on Monday, that movie did. And then Proud Mary in eighth for the 3-day with 9.9 million. And let's see here. I get this up. Yep. And came in eighth for the 4-day as well for 11.7. So not too bad there. And then after that, for the 3-day, you had Pitch Perfect 3 dropping from fifth to ninth with 5.9 million. That movie made 7.3 million, dropping from fifth to ninth for the 4-day. And for the 3-day, everything else was under 5 million. For the 4-day numbers, Darkest Hour managed to get over 5 million with 5.4 million, moving up from dropping from 8th through 10th. And everything else was under 5 million. So some movies got a big boost on Monday. We saw Paddington did. We saw Jumanji did. A lot of the family movies got the boost, which you would expect to. And all in all, this is a weekend, the second week of January, the holiday weekend, to see a movie in its fourth week pull in 35 million, a movie in an expanded release pull in 23, and then, a movie that's in its fourth week still at 16.1, and a couple new releases at 15, a couple holdovers at 14, and another at 11 for the 4-day weekend. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Even if you look at the 3-day numbers, it's still pretty good with Jumanji around 30, The Post around 20, Commuter 13, Greatest Showman 12, et cetera, et cetera. So all in all, whether you look at the 3-day or the 4-day numbers, these numbers are good. And for a box office that in many people's minds has been down, which I don't think it has been. I mean, sure, I know what the numbers say. But, sometimes when you break records, you're going to tail off. I mean, if you have a record breaker the year before, something that does way better than expected the year before, and can't be matched the next year, you're going to be down. But I digress. I don't think the box office has been in dire straits like many people think it was last year, from pretty much April on. I don't. I said this much last year. But for those that think it is, to see how 2018 has started and how the holidays have carried over into early 2018, into a month that sometimes can be a quiet kind of lull kind of month. You might have a few surprises here and there, but to see how it's carried over, it's got to be encouraging for those that were worried. It's been a good start to 2018, very solid start to 2018, better than expected, I believe, so far here in 2018 as far as some of these movies and what they've been able to do. With Jumanji being a big surprise, The Post being a big surprise, The Greatest Showman being a big surprise. It's been good for the box office, I think. So we're now beyond Martin Luther King weekend, firmly into the middle of January, and we're looking towards here as we build towards February, and we start getting into things like winter break, early spring breaks, kids being out of school, and usually your first kind of taste of some of the 2018 big blockbusters that are coming. You usually get those in mid-February. You get your first blockbusters of the year as you get into mid-February, and then you build towards March, and obviously March is full of them now. So you're starting to look here towards some blockbusters here and starting to turn towards building to February here at the box office here as we're now in mid-January. And this weekend, as we start to build towards February, this weekend you have 3 new releases, one of which is a major release, the other 2 that are more small releases, one that's just a straight-up indie release, and a couple of releases that are expanding their theater counts. Let's talk about the movies that are expanding. The first one is Phantom Thread, a drama from Focus Features. It'll be expanding into 897 theaters, starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Leslie Manville. It's already made $2.7 million domestically, R-rated. There's been a lot of buzz about this movie, particularly Daniel Day-Lewis. It might be his last performance. Not enough of a theater count to really pull in a huge number. Yeah, at least. So maybe 1.5, 2 million, maybe a little bit more than that. That's all you can really see that one doing. The other movie expanding its release is I, Tonya. It's a comedy from Neon, expanding into 796 theaters, starring Margot Robbie, Allison Janney, and Sebastian Stan. It's already made 11.3 million domestic, R-rated. A lot of controversy around this one with the whole Nancy Kerrigan, Tonya Harding thing. Obviously been a movie with a lot of awards buzz for Margot Robbie's performance, and obviously there's been a lot of publicity with Tonya Harding and everything. This could get this as it expands, it could get a good number. Right now with the theater count, again, you're probably looking at about the same as Phantom Thread. Plus, it's R-rated, much like Phantom Thread, so your expectations have to be a little low. So probably again around 1.5, 2 million, maybe a little bit more than that. That's really all you can reasonably expect. Call Me by Your Name, a drama from Sony Classics, which has been a big movie this award season. It's already made 7.4 million worldwide, 7.4 million domestic. Hasn't really done anything overseas yet. It will be expanding its release, but not hugely yet. It's not going to be. In fact, I don't even know how many theaters it's going to expand into yet, but it will be expanding its release. That stars Armie Hammer, Timothée Chalamet, R-rated. Again, if you've been watching any of the awards shows this year, you've probably seen clips from this movie and seen how much and seen how recognized it's been at some of these award shows. So this will be expanding its release, and of course, much like I, Tonya, and what's the other movie I just mentioned? Phantom Thread. Of course, they'll continue to expand, but that one will be expanding too. I just forgot to mention it earlier, and I just don't know the theater count on it. But it's something to keep an eye on if you're interested in that movie. Again, probably just like I, Tonya, and Phantom Thread won't get a lot of won't do a whole bunch right now because it's not expanding into enough theaters yet. But you're probably looking at about, maybe like another 1.5, 2 million, excuse me, kind of deal. So, yeah, none of these movies expanding are going to be in enough theaters to really factor much into things as far as, box office gross goes. So now on to the three major releases. Again, only two of them are really, one of them is only really major, and the other two are kind of like either middling or smaller budget releases. The biggest release in 3,002 theaters, 12 strong, a war drama from Warner Brothers, R-rated, starring Chris Hemsworth, Michael Shannon, and Michael Pena. Been a little bit of buzz about this, been well advertised. Unfortunately, given the R rating and given all the competition, I don't see it doing a whole bunch. Maybe you could see a 12, 13 million kind of deal here. So that's about the extent of what I can see it doing, but it'll get enough play, especially with older audiences. So the next movie up is Den of Thieves, an action thriller from STX Entertainment, opening in 2,432 theaters. Again, R-rated. There's a lot of R-rated movies out right now. Between the movies expanding their release and the movies, coming out in major releases. Again, action thriller, R-rated. Starring Gerard Butler, 50 Cent, O'Shea Jackson. Gerard Butler is actually a producer on this as well. It's a heist caper movie. Again, R-rated, and now less of a theater count than 12 strong, much less actually. Maybe 6, 7, 8 million. I haven't seen a whole lot of publicity for it, so 6, 7, 8 million, maybe even less. Probably likely less. So not a lot going on there with that one. And the movie that I've been mentioning is kind of like a smaller type release, limited release, or just like a smaller budget release kind of deal. Forever My Girl, a drama from Roadside Attractions, will be opening in 1,032 theaters. This movie, PG. They've been advertising like, if you like Nicholas Sparks, you like this movie. It'll probably get, it'll get seen, and there'll be, and by young audiences and old. It'll cross. The female demographic will definitely come out, but only in 1,032 theaters, despite its PG rating. I don't think it's going to be accessible to a lot of people because of that low theater count. So you're probably looking at about maybe 3, 4 million if you're lucky. So Jumanji will definitely repeat at number one, probably around anywhere from 16, 17 million to 20 million, probably. That's just generally where I see it going. Let's see what else. I don't know if the post will hang on because it's more older audiences, and once you see it once, that's second place is going to be interesting because it depends on how some of these movies hold over. I think it's going to be a holdover. I just don't know which one. Cause I can see the post going down. Greatest Showman will probably drop off too. Commuter will drop off. Paddington will start. Can Star Wars hang? No, it can't. You know what? I'll go with the post in second with around 14 million, 13, 14 million. 13 million I'll go with. And then I'll go with The Greatest Showman around maybe 12. I think it's going to be very close from second down. Greatest Showman around 12. 12 strong, maybe around 10, 11. Star Wars around 9, 10 million. The Commuter around Paddington 2, I'll go 7, 8 million. Commuter around 6, 7 million. Insidious and Proud Mary will probably drop to around 6, 7 million. Pitch Perfect around 5 million. and then everything else under 5 million. Based on the theater counts and all the competition, everything, that's how I kind of see it going. It won't be exact. There'll be a lot of, again, between second and down, it'll be very close between these movies. It really just depends on how well they hold over, and it's going to be one of those weekends where everybody's bunched. So we haven't seen that as much as we've seen in years past. Because a lot of movies have done better than expected. So we haven't seen that. Usually by now, in January or even late November, and that you see a lot of movies bunched up. We haven't seen that. I think we'll see that this week, though. So that's kind of an idea of how I see this weekend going. So it won't be a great week at the box office. It'll be better than some quieter periods you usually see. So I think it'll be another kind of positive weekend. Maybe not overly positive like the last few weeks, but a positive weekend at the box office to kind of continue to build on. So that's the story for this weekend. Next week, when we preview the box office, we'll be talking about expanding release and hostos. And we'll be talking about the wide release of Maze Runner: The Death Cure. I think it's the last film in that franchise. And we'll talk about its prospects and how well it could potentially do next week. And then after that, you're in February, and we'll start to build towards some of these the first big blockbusters of the year being released, and start to build towards, winter break and even March and all that it will bring. So talk more about the box office and what's coming up next week here. And that's your box office beat for this week. Now, I don't know what my co-host is again. I hope he comes soon because I'm losing my voice. Again, as usual, he probably thinks I'm going to be super late. Can't blame him. But that's okay. That's okay. When he gets here, he'll talk. So we move on here as we finish the box office, and we move on now. Let's see. What should I do next? See, I'm kind of like, maybe we should leave the TV highlights and the film stuff for him to come on. So maybe that's what we'll do. You know what? We'll switch things up, because normally we go right from the box office to TV highlights and then the film spotlight. We won't do that here tonight. We'll do the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice stuff next, because that's stuff that, he probably doesn't want to talk too much about. And the film and TV stuff he can actually contribute to. So, and that's why I like to get him to contribute. So let's do some stuff with the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice here while I still have a voice. Let's do the Golden Globes first. Obviously, these were 2 weeks ago. I know we were going to talk about last week. We just didn't have the time with all the film awards stuff and everything. So now, look, obviously, the overarching theme of the night was the Me Too movement and everything that went with it. Just like last year, it was all about Trump. So enough's been said about that. I won't go further. Obviously, Natalie Portman made some waves for her comments, and and then we had Oprah's speech and how shocking and effective that was. But outside of that, as far as winners and what it means for award season, I don't think anything was overly shocking. Generally, as you looked at the winners and everything, I don't think anything was overly shocking. I know I wasn't surprised by Franco. I figured it'd be him. I wasn't surprised by Gary Oldman because I figured the Golden Globes would award him. Whether the Oscars do or not, he'll be nominated, but I don't know if he'll win there, because some people, his performance wasn't always. Some people well regarded his performance, some people didn't. All the love for Three Billboards was kind of shocking, because that movie's been very derisive. I expect to see it at the Oscars, but I don't know if it'll be as successful there, because it has ruffled some feathers. I did expect a little bit of a bigger night for The Shape of Water and Call Me by Your Name, because they've been kind of the movies carrying the torch this award season. I wasn't shocked by The Post, because I think with the political nature of the film, I don't know if maybe there's a feeling of just trying to stay away from some of that right now, because there's been enough of that in the last couple of years. But I might be wrong. I wasn't surprised to see Lady Bird do as well as it did. I thought it should do better, actually. I thought Greta Gerwig should have been up for director, but that's a whole other story. You know, I guess I was somewhat surprised to see Frances McDormand win, even though she's brilliant. I kind of thought they'd give it to either Meryl or Sally Hawkins. That could very well happen at the Oscars or the SAGs, but you know, we'll see. So that was again, everything with 3 billboards was kind of shocking. I didn't expect it to do as well as it did. But sometimes that happens. I mean, every award still can be different sometimes. We tend to think they all follow a trajectory and a common theme, but in recent years we found that that's not the case. I thought Cerise Ronan was a good choice. Again, I wasn't surprised about Franco. I thought Allison Janney wasn't too shocking. I thought it was going to probably be either her. Actually, it could have been anybody in that category. Hung Chau, Roy Metcalf, Octavia Spencer, Mary J. Blige, they're all brilliant. So it could have been anybody in that category. So that one was pretty much wide open. Sam Rockwell surprised because I thought Willem Dafoe had it in the bag. Most people think he'll have it in the bag at the Oscars. I'd probably agree. Guillermo del Toro wasn't a surprise. I thought he was the choice given who was nominated, given the nature of the film. Coco winning animated, not shocking at all. Alexander Desplat for score wasn't a shocker. Now, on the TV side of things, I figured Handmaid's Tale was going to dominate. It did. Comedy was more or less. I was kind of surprised. I thought Will and Grace would do well, and it didn't. I didn't expect The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to do as well as it did, but it's a good show, so it's not out of the realm that it did well. Big Little Lies was obviously a given that would dominate. And I figured Sterling K. Brown would win based on the fact he won the Oscar. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. I figured he'd be a front runner. I figured it'd be him or Freddie Highmore. That's why I figured it'd be Freddie Highmore or Sterling K. Brown. So any one of those guys winning would have pretty much been expected for me. So really nothing on the TV side of things shocked me other than The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That one was shocking to me. Because I figured The Handmaid's Tale would do well in drama. So all in all, look, it wasn't a bad night. Obviously, the theme was very important, and the message was very important. Oprah was great. There were some great moments. It was entertaining. I thought Seth did a good job. I liked how he kind of stepped away and let the night have its meaning. Most of the winners I thought were fine. Then there were a couple of surprises, but for the most part, I wasn't too unexpected. In general, though, I don't think this, again, in recent years, before 10 years ago, the Golden Globes were kind of our first indicator of what could be happening this award season. And then, you follow first would be the Critics' Choice, but that would give you a little bit of a small stuff, but the Golden Globes meant more. And then you get the Golden Globes, and then you get the SAGs, and then you're like, okay, this is the Oscar. This is what it looks like. Who's going to be the front runners? Who's going to get a nomination? In recent years, we've seen that it's not nearly that predictable anymore. It's just not. You can't go, award show by award show and go, this person got nominated here and there. They won here and there. That means that the Oscar they're going to get. No, you can't do that anymore. Because we've seen over the last few years that's nearly not that predictable anymore. So I don't really think this indicates too much. I don't expect 3 billboards to do as well going forward here. I was shocked it did as well. That's probably the biggest shock for me at the Golden Globes was the fact it did that well. Because of the fact that it's a derisive film. But going forward, I'd expect things like The Post, The Shape of Water, Call Me By Your Name to do better. And see better results than what we saw at the Golden Globes. That would be my thinking. And those movies didn't really have huge nights at the Golden Globes. They won, but they didn't have huge nights. I would also expect Lady Bird to be another have a lot of success too going forward. So all in all, this isn't one of those Golden Globes that I think really gives us a lot of information about what's going to be going on going forward here with the award season. I think it's a precursor somewhat. In some ways, on some predictable levels, like Coco, we know it's going to probably win anime at the Oscars. I think we all expected Gary Oldman to be a front runner. James Franco as well. So, I mean, some things were fairly predictable in play that we thought would be in play, but generally speaking, I don't think it gives us really too much of an indicator one way or another as for what could dominate going forward here. I don't think it really gives us too much in the way of like what the Oscars will bring us, other than the fact that we know Franco will be involved. We know that Gary Oldman will be involved. A lot of these people that were nominated will be involved. Will the same people win? Will the same movies dominate? Again, 3 Billboards I don't see dominating. I think it'll be nominated, but I don't see it dominating to this level. But other than that, who knows? I don't think we can derive too much from the Globes this year as far as that goes. Now, Critics' Choice, again, they reversed the order. Critics' Choice used to be in December. They moved it to January after the Golden Globes. I don't know why they did it, but they did it. And as I said, the Critics' Choice are not really the precursor that the Golden Globes have been in years past. Again, the Golden Globes aren't so much of a precursor now. Things have changed a little bit, but they can still act as more of one than the Critics' Choice. The Critics' Choice is very wide open. They have like our awards, where they have genre categories. It's a little bit different. And I think next to the Golden Globes, it's probably the next best awards show because of that fact that it awards a lot of different movies that wouldn't normally get awarded, like action movies and stuff like that. So I think it's a fun award show to watch. And it's varied in who you see up there and all that kind of stuff. So, and I can see that Mike is on. Mike, you're in the spotlight.
Yes, Brian. Spotlight. In like 2 weeks, without doing something so unjust.
Oh, Jesus.
Insulting. I was willing to praise you for it. Tonight, okay. Sometimes, Brian, are a thing. Stomach aches are a thing. And one of those ways to kind of relieve that pain is some private time. The loo. You keep interrupting my constitutionals, Brian. Why? Tonight was not a good show night.
Is it ever with you?
There are nights where it is very, very pleasant. However, one of those nights, if my place of employment did not have something had died in there. It smells like cheese and farts. Interrupt.
Heaven forbid I should start on time.
Start on time? You were late.
How I started at like 8 after, Mike. That's pretty good.
Supposed to start at 9.
Okay, so if I started at
8 after, I figured you would just be talking anyways.
Right.
So,
but I still would have interrupted your conversation.
You wholeheartedly interrupt my constitutional.
I would have interrupted if I started on time anyway, apparently. So I couldn't win.
Generally, you can't.
What's cool is today we have 400 people.
Nice ad.
Generally, it's also you who plays the ads on online. So
yeah.
But Brian, one of these times you're just gonna know telepathically.
Yeah.
I shouldn't interrupt anything. Picking a massive poo.
I'm that gifted.
No, if you were that gifted, you would know, but you're not.
I like to think that I've been doing really well about avoiding your special private time.
It's not special private time. It's necessary constitutionals. It's a difference.
It must be nice.
You tried.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through a show with very little voice, so give me a break. I've done pretty well.
There will be no breaks to be had.
No, and thankfully I'm more than halfway through. Thank God. But you know what, though, Mike? I made my way to the Critics' Choice.
You did.
I've talked about the box office last week, this week. I've talked about the Golden Globes. Would you like to add anything to any of those topics before I go again?
I didn't even know the Critics' Choice had an awards. I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I was busy doing things. Although James Franco won, and then like a day after, he got accused of some things. Yay! So, Oscar time's in doubt, but you can't rule out Franco.
No.
And unfortunately, they're not going to nominate Idris Elba for his magnificent turn in Molly's, because for some reason, the Oscar voters just don't like quality and taste. And they like quality and taste and excellence. I am embarrassed for them. So it goes. Otherwise, I really don't have anything more to say other than for not letting Tommy Wiseau have his moment. But Tommy Wiseau at the Golden Globes, just marvelous. Also, did Speechless win series?
No.
Then I automatically don't care.
Okay. So, all right. So now that you're caught up, as I was talking about, was the not the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice, and you saw some generally unsurprising results. Now this time we had Best Picture, The Shape of Water. Guillermo del Toro won Best Director. Gary Oldman won Best Actor. Frances McDormand won Best Actress. Sam Rockwell, Supporting Actor. And Allison Janney, Supporting Actress, which follows very closely with the Golden Globes. Does that mean that they're all frontrunners? Not necessarily. Just means that they all vote. I mean, sometimes you see some similarities with the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes. Why? Because they have similar mindsets. They will try to award things that might be more on the, I'm not going to say the mainstream side, more popular side of things, or more the more bigger names. Kind of how it goes sometimes. Outside of that, I don't think any. I mean, we saw Jordan Peele win for original screenplay for Get Out, which was good. Coco won animated feature, which again, foregone conclusion. Let's see. Other than that, there wasn't anything. I mean, if you want to know about some of the more different awards that don't get offered anywhere else, Wonder Woman won action movie. Big Sick won comedy, which is, the Big Sick's been kind of left aside all award season. It was one of the early favorites, so it's been kind of shocking to see how it's been treated. James Franco won actor in a comedy, which probably that probably bodes well. Again, that's kind of goes along with what happened at the Golden Globes. Margot Robbie won actress in a comedy. Get Out won sci-fi horror film. TV categories: Handmaid's Tale, Sterling K. Brown, Elizabeth Moss, all nominees from all winners from Golden Globes night. David Harbour for Stranger Things, and Dowd for Handmaid's Tale won the supporting categories. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel won comedy, which also happened at the Golden Globes. So nothing. Again, a lot of it followed the Golden Globes trajectory. Big Little Lies dominated as well. Again, very much following the trajectory of the Golden Globes in a lot of ways. So not much you can say about that. Again, Critics' Choice and Golden Globes often follow similar voting patterns. That's why, the Critics' Choice often can be a nice little precursor to the Golden Globes. They don't really give you too much of a precursor about what could happen all award season, particularly to the big event, the Oscars. Golden Globes used to be a better precursor than they currently are. They can still tell you some things, but as we've seen in the last few years, it's not nearly as predictable anymore. Just because it wins a Golden Globe doesn't mean it's going to win an Oscar or even be nominated. So you have to be, you can't take anything for granted here or think anything's a foregone conclusion. So I don't take anything from either one of those award shows other than the fact that I think we know who, in some ways, who's a lock for nominations. Gary Oldman, James Franco. Jeez, I just lost my train of thought. I just lost what I was going to talk about. Who won actress? Let's see. Guillermo del Toro, director, Shape of Water, 3 Billboards, Call Me By Your Name. Those movies will all be nominated and will be very much in the mix. The question is, for movies like Get Out, Lady Bird will be reflected in some way, shape, or form. Greta Gerwig will probably get a nomination, especially given all the talk about female directors and everything. I firmly suspect she'll be nominated at the Oscars. I think that campaigning will help. The interesting thing for me is, you see Sam Rockwell winning supporting actor when everybody thought it was going to be William Dafoe. Has that changed? I don't know. That might be the only award that of everything that's happened so far where I think maybe there's a little bit of momentum, and maybe you can say that maybe there's a precursor there, that maybe people are looking at Rockwell more than William Dafoe. Everybody suspected it's going to be William Dafoe, but that might be the one. That might be the only award at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice that I look at and go, you know what? Maybe our initial thinking on who's going to win supporting actor at the Oscars is wrong, based on how that's projected. That I could see. That might be the only one I can see it with, just because of the way everything's been moving. But again, nothing's a slam dunk here. You can't go up like in the past. You could look at the Golden Globes and go, you know what? It's one Critics' Choice. It's one Golden Globe. It's going to be nominated. It's probably going to be the front runner at the Oscars. I don't think you can say that anymore. The SAGs might give you a little bit of idea because I do think at the SAGs, if anybody that's won a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award, let's say Sam Rockwell wins at the SAGs, and I think at that point you do have to call him the front runner. If between Franco and Oldman, if one of them wins the SAG, then I think you give him a little bit of an edge at the Oscars. If it ends up being Daniel Day-Lewis, then everything's wide open. That's what I'm saying. So I think the SAGs might be the first award show so far that gives us a little bit more of an idea of what to expect at the Oscars, as opposed to anything we've seen thus far, because I think it's a little bit of a different voting group, and it's more in line with the Oscars usually do as far as voting goes. So we'll see what happens. I do expect, again, movies like The Shape of Water, Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name to do very well going forward here. The Post as well, probably, especially in light of the box office numbers. Makes too much money, it probably disqualify itself, but,
Right.
But it's the truth. But anyway, those movies, and then you're going to be interested in seeing what happens with Dunkirk. Many people suspected it'd be a lock. Is it? Probably a lock for a nomination, but how? Because many people thought this might be the first chance Christopher Nolan had to get one. A directing win at the Oscars or a Best Picture win. Everybody thought it was a wide open field. Is it still a wide open field? We'll see going forward here. I think the SAGs might give us an idea. I think the only true shock, I shouldn't say the SAGs, but maybe even the Directors Guild, like if Christopher Nolan's the Directors Guild, and that throws a wrench into the idea that Guillermo del Toro is probably a foregone conclusion. the interesting thing for me, if Three Billboards ends up doing as well at the SAGs as it's done so far, then you might start to think that the derisiveness and the controversy surrounding the movie is not enough to hurt its chances at the Oscars. And if that's the case, then it's going to be one of the more unpopular
Derisive.
nights. Yeah.
And unpopular choices Oscar could have possibly selected.
Right.
And yes, I mean, yes, there is lots of things with Three Billboards, but Three Billboards is wildly unpopular, right?
Yes, it is.
Against the moviegoer, the critics, it's wildly unpopular. He likes that ending. Look, if the Oscars nominate that and actually wins, like, well, felt this was the best piece of cinema this year. One will come to the conclusion they've already come to. The Oscars are old and out of touch. Present are, because let's be clear here, the movie of the year last year enjoyed Wonder Woman or Star Wars, or speaking of derisive movies, more people enjoyed, I'd like to say, than the sect of society that didn't really like stuff. We don't talk about those all. But Star Wars and Wonder Woman, and people enjoyed those movies. People enjoyed. But we're nominating Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, where spoiler gets away with it. Look, not everything has a happy ending. Utterly Forgiven. Apparently, they changed nothing. The racist changes nothing, but he's forgiven anyway. What kind of message does that send?
Yeah.
Voter, what kind of message does that send? There is your problem. Over The Shape of Water, or Get Out, or movies lots of people have seen, or The Post, which nobody saw. Yep. So I don't know. This Oscar season is wild. Yes, it is very unpredictable for most of it, but maybe you can hold out hope. These Oscar voters have, let's say, evolved their thinking.
Right.
Where a traditional Oscar movie like Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, that would be a traditional, if not controversial choice.
Right.
Go with something more out of the box. Yeah.
And the thing is, they have their option. They have their options. You know, they have The Post. Again, maybe they don't want to go too political. They stay away from that, then fine. But you still have The Shape of Water. But they don't really like sci-fi, so maybe they don't want that. All right, Call Me by Your Name. You know, they have other options.
Maybe they don't like the gays as much. So what do we go? Do we go with Molly's Game?
Yeah, they didn't like Brokeback Mountain. So why would they like Call Me by Your Name? That's right. Yeah, Molly's Game.
Or maybe you go you exceed all expectations, and maybe you nominate and give Get Out the win, because it was one of the movies of last year, as well as allegedly being freaking scary.
You could go with Get Out. You could go with Dunkirk.
Get Out.
Dunkirk.
You could go with a movie, which is right up their alley.
Yeah, but they don't seem to like
the greatest directors of all time.
They don't seem to like.
No, they don't like Christopher Nolan.
So
one of them superhero movies, Brian.
Yeah, right. You know, maybe they go and go after Lady Bird and Greta Gerwig. You know,
because they always have to go with trailblazing movies that nobody has actually seen.
Or
Do you, Brian, real quick, do you know anybody who's actually seen Lady Bird?
other than me, no.
No. You are the only person who's seen Lady Bird.
That's not a knock on it.
About Lady Bird.
But yeah, I mean, or they could go with what's the other movie I was thinking of? Gosh, I was just thinking of another movie. I can't think of what it was. Not that one.
It was Jumanji, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Jumanji. No, I can't
Maybe
think of what I was thinking
it should be Jumanji.
Wow, it won't be.
It won't be, but maybe it should be.
You know,
maybe it's the Big Stick.
Yeah, Big Stick was the one that everybody thought was going to be a favorite. So maybe they go there. Maybe they go random and go there. Maybe they shock the world and put Wonder Woman in there. What am I talking about?
If they want to get people involved and excited about the Oscars, they should put Wonder Woman in there.
Yeah. I mean, look, they have their options, okay? And this is a pretty wide open season. You know, we've seen that in some of these results and some of the reactions to the results. What Three Billboards did at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice shocked everybody. Not because we didn't think anyone would win anything, but because nobody thought it would dominate to the level it was doing, you know? So
and everybody's reaction to it dominating was, wow, why is this shitty movie winning?
Right.
Not a movie, Brian.
Right. No, you're right.
We forgot the Disaster Artist.
Right.
The Disaster Artist should be nominated for everything, too.
Hell, they could even throw Darkest Hour in there if they want to. That movie.
Throw Darkest Hour in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are plenty of options here. Stuff that's more traditional for them, stuff that's a safer choice for them. I mean, like I said, that's probably been the biggest surprise this year and what has been a wide open award season is the fact that you saw Three Billboards do what it's done. Does that mean it's going to carry that over going forward? No, we've seen that before. And look, even if it does, look what La La Land did last year. It dominated the entire award season. It got to the Oscars. And what happened? It lost. So you don't know. What's happening now doesn't necessarily predict what's going to happen later. It's not like 5 or 6 years ago where it did. So we'll see. We'll see. Right now, I would say going forward, Shape of Water, The Post, Lady Bird will probably see much more success. And Three Billboards will drop back. Doesn't mean it won't win anything, but it'll drop back. We'll see if movies like Dunkirk, Get Out, can kind of, Call Me By Your Name will be another one I see having success. We'll see if those other movies can jump in and surprise some people. Maybe there's other surprises too. We'll see. It is a wide open season. Probably one of the most wide open seasons I can remember. Where there doesn't seem to be any agreement as to what, I mean, everybody's kind of not on the same page as far as what they like and, what they think they should push and all that kind of stuff. I think everybody agrees that a lot of these movies are good, but there isn't that one great one that's kind of supersedes everything.
The problem the other problem you mentioned, yes, it's wide open and there's no clear favorite, but the problem is there is no
Yeah.
The people go watch the Oscars because of Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If they want a number, they better come up with a draw, something to draw us in. Why? Are you going to nominate Get Out? Are you going to nominate Wonder Woman?
Right.
Balls in your court, Oscars.
And we say that every year. And, the justification, the thing every year is there's usually 3 or 4 movies that they really, really like that they can't, pull away from. They have to nominate them. This year, there's like 7 or 8 or 9 good movies, but they can't all agree on them. So maybe you look at other movies and stick them in there. Because again, you're seeing a lot of different opinions this year. What one person thinks deserves to be nominated or win, another person doesn't. It's not the same as it's been in past, like last year, La La Land, Moonlight, there were 3 or 4 movies that people were really on board with, that they pushed and thought should win. This year, you're not seeing that. There are movies that people think are good enough to win, but not everybody can agree on that. That's the difference. And that's why I don't think anything that's happened so far doesn't necessarily means that something's going to, it's necessarily a precursor to what's going to happen going forward here. That's why you have to be careful in assuming that what's happened so far is going to happen again. The SAGs, the Producers Guild, Directors Guild, BAFTAs will give us something. The branches often give us some idea because they do vote a little bit more similarly to the Oscars. And then the Oscar nominations next week, we'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be some big surprises. We'll see. I mean, I do think one thing I think, I think you'll see Greta Gerwig get a nomination because I think there's been enough campaigning for female directors. And maybe that means Patty Jenkins too. That'd be nice. But we'll see how things turn out. All right. So I did some Golden Globe stuff. We did some Critics' Choice stuff. I gave you some ideas on Oscars, SAGs, and how this award season's going. So we did that. I was going to do that last, but I figured I'd do it in the middle of the show. So let's go from that to the what we have left over here, which is the film spotlight and the TV picks of the week. I'm going to do the film spotlight first. Again, because the TV stuff, I don't have a lot to offer. Excuse me. I'm trying to look at my notes and see where we're at. We did Thor. We did Express. We did Coco. Let's see. Did we do Disaster Artist? I'm trying to check my checklist. I don't think we did. Yeah, because we didn't do the December movies at all. So we got the Disaster Artist. And then it'll be Star Wars. I'm going to wait on Star Wars. We'll do one at a time. So let's do the Disaster Artist, and we can both comment on it. I'll go first before I lose my nerve again. So obviously we've seen James Franco recognized a lot for his role in Disaster Artist for playing Tommy Wiseau. But if you see this movie, excuse me, if you see this movie, first of all, there's more dramatic aspects to it than I think people would assume. Okay? It starts off very much like a documentary. It ends kind of like a documentary. It's kind of got a grainy feel to it at times. And it's interesting in that it manages to paint the portrait of this man, Tommy Wiseau, while at the same time also giving his best friend and partner, Greg Sestero was played by Dave Franco, his due too. It's kind of like a dual story, even though obviously James Franco's Tommy Wiseau is the spotlight of the movie and the framework of the movie. You do have these dual stories where they both have this dream, and they both have different ways to approach that dream, and both have different attitudes and perspectives on that dream. And there's moments where they do go off on separate paths, but then it comes together at the end, and kind of re-solidifies their friendship after it almost breaks up. It's actually a really interesting way that they go about doing that. And obviously it's based on the book and all that other stuff, but there's a good, well-crafted story here in the way that it's approached and the way it all comes together. Again, there's more drama in here than you'd expect. And there's one sequence at the end between James and Dave, and of course they're brothers, and they haven't quite acted opposite each other much. So, and I think they did well together. And I think there was a comfort level there, and there's more chances taken there. But there's one scene towards the end of the film, towards the last act, when they, everything kind of comes out, the frustration. And Dave Franco's character, Greg, and comes out, and it's just a very, it takes you by surprise how serious it is, and almost how abrupt it is, because it's like you don't expect that in this kind of movie, but it's real, and but it doesn't feel artificial. It doesn't feel forced. It just takes you by surprise in where it comes out, and it kind of shakes you a little bit, and you're like, wow, this is not some jumped up comedy. This is a real story, and it just brings you into it and makes you feel that. I'll also give credit to Zac Efron because his performance as Chris R is pretty accurate and very intense. He did that well. It's just nice, and there's a lot of other cameos in this, and it's fun. And it's a good story, and it's funny, but it takes itself seriously enough where you feel the realness of the story itself. So again, it's not in many theaters, but if you get the chance, I'd check it out because it's such an interesting story. The whole story of the room and time, it's such an interesting, unique story, and it's worth, if you don't know much about it, worth seeing just for that alone. But it's also a good movie in its own merit. So, yeah, if you get the chance to see The Disaster Artist, check it out. If you need a double feature with The Room, check that out too because it works well together. Mike, your thoughts, Disaster Artist?
The Disaster Artist. Movies I've seen all year. I mean, let me just preface it by saying that. It was based on the book written by Greg Sestero. When I did read it, I did read The Disaster Artist, and I could say it was mostly it was mostly a good representation of the book. It was mostly a faithful rendition. So you can't play too much. Obviously, Franco, because of The Disaster Artist, is the making of The Room. It's the story of The Room and how Tommy and Greg met and their journey together. So, the relationship between Dave and Jane, it needed to feel, and it did. I feel like genuine, and not only that, every other role, it was casted movie. Fantastically casted movie. Is Dan Gigigan, who played Chris R. Josh Hutcherson. Philip Halderman, who played Denny.
Right.
He played Denny. I'm trying to think of her name, Lisa. And that. She was really good. Seth Rogen was excellent in this movie. He was a source of a lot of humor in this film. A lot of the one-liners came from him. It was an excellent movie. It faithfully recreated many of those scenes in the worst movie, I should say, of all time. It was great. It was the screenplay was fantastic. It was acted really, really well. Fantastically. You can't complain about The Disaster Artist. Were there awkward moments? Absolutely. I don't even remember if with Tommy Wiseau and Judd Apatow was in the book. I don't remember if that scene was in the book, and that was one of the most awkward scenes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it was quality. It kind of helped build Tommy's drive. It helped build Tommy Wiseau's drive. So that being said, I would highly recommend The Disaster Artist. The Disaster Artist. I'm disappointed that Dave Franco's not getting more.
Yeah,
because she had to do more. But let's be clear here: this book and this movie was just as much about Greg Sestero than they were essential for each other. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I hope Franco does win the Oscar, because maybe, just maybe, Tommy Wiseau might get to say a line on the Oscars.
He should have had to go.
And there was he should have, and that was Franco fucked up. And what was I going to say? It was Tommy Wiseau did have a scene at the end of the movie.
Yep.
It was a post-credit scene. It was surreal. You hope for. So yeah, if you could watch this, it's coming to the end of its theatrical run. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks in cinemas, and now it's kind of getting taken out. But if you can find some show times, if you can catch it, if you can find a double feature with The Room, the trailer for Best Friends.
Yep.
You should take advantage of it because it is well worth the wait. It is well worth the 2 hours you're going to spend. And I kind of want to see The Room after this. I didn't get a chance to see The Room after, but I kind of want to see it because it evokes that, because it feels a lot like a lot of the scenes were shot for shot with The Room. It has that spirit.
Right.
It was completely worth it. So I believe we both highly recommend the making of the best or worst movie ever made.
Yeah. I mean, the frame, the recreation of some of those scenes is really, really good. And I agree with you, Dave. I wish Dave was getting a little bit more recognition, but I think too many people feel like he's playing very similarly to himself. So that's probably why. But still, it's there's enough there to say that he should have gotten more recognition than he did. But a lot of people put themselves in movies. We've seen it, and they still get awarded. So I don't see how that's an excuse, but whatever. All right, so that's The Disaster Artist. We'll do another. And that's our film spotlight of the week. Obviously, there's more films to get to. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which will probably be the next one we do. We'll do that soon. I don't know if we'll do this segment next week, but at least the week after we'll do it. And this gives me also some time to go see some other things I haven't been able to see, like Jumanji and everything, because I haven't gotten to as many movies as I liked. I've been not feeling good in the weather and everything. So yeah, it gives me a chance to kind of get to some of these other films over the next few weeks, and then that way we can talk more about them or talk about more of these films, because I, again, didn't get to see as much in December as I wanted to. So, but at least we got to Disaster Artist tonight. And next time around, we'll do Star Wars, and then whatever else we see in the interim, we'll talk about. So at least we got one in tonight. I wanted to get at least one, and then we did. So, all right, so that's the film spotlight of the week. Now, TV highlights. I'm going to be brief because I don't have a lot. Because I've been, again, being sick and everything else. Let's see here. Let me have my fanboy moment first. I'll highlight Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I thought it was fantastic. I like where they're going. I like how it's building towards the end of the space arc, which, I think I understand why they had to stretch it out, but I don't think it needed to be stretched out just quite this much, but I digress. I like what they've done. It was like a big chase episode this week, and it was fun. Some really good crowd-pleasing moments, I thought. And an interesting ending that sets the stage for some good stuff for this week, I believe. So good show there. I'm caught up on The Gifted, and the finale was really, really good. I liked where the show was going. It's kind of like, reminds me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit, where it's got enough connection, but it's also trying to stand on its own. And that mythology is coming more and more out. X-Men mythology is coming more and more out. And I'll give them credit for that. They built it very well. I thought they had a really good finale, and I look forward to seeing where they go. I'm glad they got a second season. So good for them. I really like where they're going there. Let's see, what else did I check out this week? Oh, God, goodness. I've been catching up on some episodes of Shameless. That's a show that I got into a few years ago, and I kind of stopped watching. But I've been watching some of the recent stuff because I didn't want to go through all these seasons, and it's been it's actually pretty interesting. Although I can't watch Cameron Monaghan not think Joker. It's kind of hard. But still, he's really good on the show, and it's interesting to see where, because I think I stopped watching like season 3. think it was season 3 or at the end of season 3, something like that. And to see where all the characters are now and how much older they are and where they've gone is kind of interesting. Now it makes me want to go see those middle seasons because I think it's actually in a way a better show now because you can focus on each one of them individually and give them more intense storylines. It's the reason why that show's still on. It's actually really interesting. And if you don't like one storyline, there's so many storylines that go on because there's so many individual storylines. Each kid has their own story. And then, of course, William H. Macy's character gets his own story, and Emmy Rossum's character gets her own story. So there's so many different storylines that if you don't like one or two, you still have enough storylines going on that you're probably going to find enjoyment in. So that's what I like about it. So I've been getting into that again a little bit. It's been enjoyable. And I think that's it. I've been watching, between I am having a lot of chances to watch stuff this week. So, Mike, your TV highlights.
TV highlights. So quiet down for a little bit. Maybe rest your voice.
Cool.
So let me start by saying I saw The Flash. The season or the mid-season premiere of The Flash, and there's the trial of Barry Allen. And let me say that Barry Allen, easily one of the superheroes out there. This trial, and by the way, being an expert legal mind, Joe's soon-to-be wife, didn't hammer any of that evidence home. Really didn't hammer any of that evidence home. They have evidence that maybe they could have worked with, and it was worked on, and then the witness kind of did it on the kind of explained it away on the stand, and then Joe's wife, who is a star prosecutor who was defending Barry Allen this time, immediately gave up. If anything, it should have been a mistrial. By the way, that it's like Guggenheim and Berlanti didn't even fucking watch any procedurals the last 25 years. Law and Order would have been like, yeah, that's a mistrial, buddy, and we're Law and Order. This episode wasn't that bad. It wasn't that great. Special highlights to Ralph Dibny, the guy who played Ralph Dibny, the elongated man. His character progression was really highlighted. While Barry is dumb. Barry's really dumb. Dibny, who was introduced as this kind of corrupt private eye who got kicked off the force, giving these powers kind of gave him a second chance. He talked Joe out of planting evidence. Really his part of the story, and the next episode is going to focus on him. Spoiler, Flash went to jail. Barry Allen's in jail now. Yeah. Barry Allen's in jail, and DeVoe is DeVoe. He went from being an older guy to being a young black male. Yeah, we're doing this now. We're really medium recommendation on The Flash. Watch it if you're into it. Your time might be better spent elsewhere. By the way, the mid-season and it exclusively featured Caden James. And I will say, Michael Emerson is fantastic.
Yeah.
Caden James is fantastic, and looks like from that trailer that they look to be doing something interesting with Black Siren. Interesting with Black Siren. They look to be doing something moderately interesting with the other team members that Oliver kicked off the team. The only interesting things they don't have going on is Felicity and Oliver. The least interesting thing about Arrow is the one thing pimping out all season. Caden James looks super interesting, but enough for me to watch the show. Too bad, because Caden James is essentially evil Mr. Finch. Interest. Am I wrong?
No.
You know what? There was a cut out. It was a stupid cut put out by the man's rights movement of Star Wars Last Jedi, where they cut out all the female roles and they limited it to like 45 minutes of screen time. Yes, that is a dumb idea, but if they cut out every mention or highlight of Felicity or Allison, I bet, Brian, we can get 45 minutes worth of good content from season 6. Maybe an hour from season 6. The trailer highlighted to me, if we cut out every bit of Felicity, Oliver, God, Arrow would be great. And this is sad because I don't blame Emily Beck-Rickards for any of this. I don't blame Stephen Amell for any of this. Their characters has been god awful and an abomination. Season trailer I'd recommend, but I don't recommend the actual show. What show I'd actually recommend, though? Lightning. DC on Tuesday after Flash. Lightning follows a principal of a school. He's trying to raise his 2 daughters. He's the retired hero Black Lightning. He's trying to raise his 2 daughters. Great principal of the school, and he's really invested. He's trying to say, look, the way I was doing things before wasn't right. And the only way I can make a true change in this community, so he's been doing a great job. And then his youngest daughter runs afoul of the 100, who's a gang. Which kind of drags the older daughter into it, and then they both get kidnapped in broad daylight, and then Black Lightning is back, and it's almost season 1 of Arrow vibes, only without the annoying Felicity character. I will say the first episode of Black Lightning is really well written, really well directed, a lot of great action, and there are excellent themes in there too. It's almost like a deconstruction of the Arrowverse almost. It's like, here's a guy who's like, I don't want to rely on violence, but sometimes it's necessary. Is a necessary evil. We need the violent. We need to be violent in order to retain this peaceful solution.
Right.
He rescues his daughters, and Black Lightning is back. But with you, it's a long season.
Yeah,
Lightning was a show I was excited to kind of watch, and it's a show I'm excited to watch going forward. Weapon. I watched Lethal Weapon, and what did I say about freaking Lethal Weapon? I will say this, though. They kind of, Riggs had a romantic interest, and once again, we dropped that angle. And I don't know if we're going to go back to it. I'd like to see them go back to it. Why Riggs dropped it? Because Riggs' dad is kind of shaping up to be the big bad of this arc. But that where we're kind of getting away from it. Not Briggs' bed being the big bad of the arc, but all these plot threads that are threatening to give Riggs more character development, where we're kind of ignoring it, isn't the way to go. But so I kind of want to see getting back to some of these things that some of the good steps they were making in this season of Lethal Weapon. The Murtaugh stuff is always strong. Always strong. They had and this episode was another great episode of Lethal Weapon. It was funny. There was action packed. There was some drama. Look, Lethal Weapon, you're in for an hour of a good. You're in for a solid hour, a great hour of an enjoyable time. Ask for. So watch Lethal Weapon. It's totally worth it. Other than that, what have I seen? I have not seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if I'm going to get back to that yet. I've got Speechless, but I've been avoiding it. Oh, Star Talk, Neil deGrasse Tyson. By the way, they announced season 2 of Cosmos. McFarlane, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's coming back.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on Fox, and it's gonna be on National Geographic. And it's first season of Cosmos was the first one with Neil deGrasse Tyson was good. This one, it's called like Distant Worlds or something. I'm excited for it, but there's an episode of Star Talk, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson's show. And Adam from Adam Ruins Everything was Stephen Colbert, and Neil deGrasse Tyson had probably one of his greatest interviews with and Colbert was Colbert. He was engaged, he was excited, he was interested. Stephen Colbert is Colbert's number one in late night. And all of that here. It was a great interview. Colbert knows his stuff. Great episodes. Probably one of the best episodes of Star Talk so far. Best episodes of Star Talk so far. So I recommend that you go out of your way for this episode of Star Talk. Geographic. So yeah, there you go. I gave you Black Lightning. I gave you 4 shows and a trailer. And a trailer.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I'm a giver tonight. I gave.
Wow. well done.
Welcome. You're welcome.
And it gave me a choice to rest my voice, so that's good. Which is still not helping, but all right. So that's our TV highlights. Excuse me. So with that being said, we've done TV highlights, film spotlight. We did the Golden Globes, we did everything we had to do. Before I lose my voice entirely, let us wind down, my friends, here on this Thursday. As always, just because the show is over, does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, reactions, comments, opinions on things we talked about. Topic ideas or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling you want us to cover. Questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Obviously, any questions related to the in the Spotlight Film Awards. Remember, any submissions for the Film Awards can be done by email only, but questions you can do email, Facebook, and Twitter. So keep in mind all that. Again, email address for the show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it, once you find it. Again, follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about the show. We interact with, we'll interact on there. We'll post information, schedule changes, all that good stuff. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Search for us on Twitter at itspotlight411. Remember, anything you tweet regarding the show, use hashtag itspotlight411. Facebook, just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our page once you find it. There are 2 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either do that on Google Plus and YouTube, where you can stream us anytime. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on those sites, and you'll be taken to our show page where you can stream us anytime. You can stream any of the episodes we ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episodes. That's available for you to stream anytime you want. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube, and you'll be able to do that. If streaming's not your thing, maybe you prefer to listen to us rather than see us on screen. Maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you'll find every episode we've ever produced in the nearly 8 years we've been doing the show. The 7.5 years we've been doing the show. It's not 8 years yet, but still almost 8 years. So any of our episodes from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010, January 2011, anything from our Talk Show run from January 2011, all the way up to mid-October 2015. And all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode, all transfer into audio format for your convenience. All episodes in audio format for your convenience. All episodes in order from the most recent, that being tonight's episode, all the way to the oldest, way back in October 2010. All available for you to listen to anytime you want, whether you listen to them on the go or on your own time, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're a long-time fan, wants to check out an episode from a few years ago. A new fan wants to check out an episode like that for the first time, or keep up with current episodes. Any of that applies to you. You can check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411. Spotlight 411. On those sites, and you'll have to have access to all that and be able to keep up with the show and more. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It is officially time for bed.
I want to thank myself and our great show, Pat myself back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. Thank you for your patience with me this week with the issues, technical issues, and of course my voice. Hopefully everything will be good for next week. I'm feeling better. It's just the voice is kind of going off and on, but so thank you for bearing with me. That is it for this week. Again, next week, Tuesday, Sports Entertainment Combo Show. We'll talk about Conference Championship Weekend, the NFL, look ahead to the Super Bowl, college basketball, any other sports stuff we have to talk about, entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights, all that on Tuesday. Next Thursday, All Wrestling Show, previewing WWE's Royal Rumble pay-per-view event. We'll go over all the matches, make predictions, address questions and comments from the fans. If you have a question or comment you'd like to submit before the show or during the show next Thursday, you can do that by email, Facebook, and Twitter, so keep that in mind. And then the week after that, again, before I get to the week after that, remember Thursday of next week, we have an All Wrestling Show. There's also the deadline for submissions for the winning ballots for the 8th annual In the Spotlight Film Awards. Those are due next Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And also any submissions for the live voted award nominations are also due at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time next Thursday. Again, all that can be done by email only. So make sure to remember that. And then, of course, a week from Tuesday will be the 8th annual In the Spotlight Film Awards on Tuesday, January 30th. So a little bit of insight into what's coming up and what's going down. So should be an interesting couple weeks here on the show. All right, with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great weekend, and a great start to your week. Next week, we'll see you back here for our next show this coming Tuesday night, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. That's this Tuesday, January the 23rd, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. That is our next show. Until then, have a great weekend. Stay safe, everyone.